Hello, everyone. This is Sarah Levis with the Growth Unit in the EDGE team, and welcome to another EDGEy conversation. I'm happy to have with me today Russell Mitchell Walker of the East Side United Church in Regina, Saskatchewan, my old stomping grounds. Um, and it's going to tell us a bit today about what Eastside has been up to, especially their More Than Church program, which as a member of the Edge team, I'm really excited to hear about. Hello, Russell. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Can you tell us a little bit about Eastside and and what you're doing there?
Sure, Eastside is a congregation in the eastern part of Regina in what many would kind of know as a suburban type community or neighborhood, as much as Regina would have suburbs as a small city. Um, and we also share the building with Lutheran and Anglican congregation, although the Anglican church is kind of moving out as they amalgamated 5 churches in the city. Um, and their congregation is no longer actually worshiping in our space. So we're also kind of in the process then of looking for a new partner or partners to share the space with. But that's been a very good and meaningful and challenging and worthwhile endeavor as well in these times as we struggle as churches to make ends meet. It makes sense to share space and ministry together in whatever ways that we can. So East Side is a congregation that is an affirming ministry in Regina, and I would say is a fairly progressive and open congregation in terms of open to creativity and doing things in different ways. As a diaconal minister, I've been able to do creative things and have them like turn to each other and talk to one another in church, and that's been like nobody bats an eye at that and stuff. So it's really great to kind of have that support to do things differently. And since I came and I was hired kind of with them knowing that my approach would be around figuring out how we be church in these times, because there's been so many cultural shifts that have happened, and church is not considered to be kind of the center of the community as it used to. And many people aren't interested in church and the institution anymore. So we have to figure out how we be church. And we're, I think, playing a lot of catch up around all of those shifts and changes. And so for the longest time, initially when I started here 11 years ago, kept telling congregation that whatever we do differently to bring more people to the church will not necessarily mean putting more bums in the pews. And so, and because church wasn't working for people was the other part of that statement that I would say. And then I realized, well, it's working for those who are coming Sunday morning, so I probably should stop saying that. And and so, but given that the majority of people don't consider themselves religious or members of a church community, they still consider themselves either Christian or spiritual and believe in God and pray. And so it's like the question is, how do we reach out to those people who have spiritual needs and interests, but don't want to come to church Sunday morning? So that's been the focus of the More Than Church idea. And it's been just trying to create or develop programs that might reach out to people in the community. And so we have a Film and Faith program where we go out to a movie and have conversations about the spiritual themes in the movie. We started a family dinner, it started as, and didn't get very many families. And again, when I came, I would say I was kind of aware and telling people that if families came once a month, they were regular attenders because there's so many things demanding their attention. in terms of activities. And if they don't have activities with the kids Sunday morning, they're probably exhausted and just want to rest and don't want to get up to do another thing with the kids. So looking to try and find other times and things for families, and thought a community dinner with some kid all ages activities during would work. But we found that while we got some families, what picked up was we had one woman who came that invited a bunch of her friends, and she would bring 15 to 20 people to this dinner. And so we thought, well, this is meeting a need. So we shifted it to a community dinner, and we've been trying to reach out to the neighborhood with that as well. And so that was going pretty well. And this woman continued to connect with her friends and bring them to the dinner. And then the pandemic hit, and um, we shifted to online. But most of these women did not have email, let alone kind of any other way of connecting with us. And our connection with most of them were through this woman who was phoning them and inviting them most months. And so we've lost that really over the pandemic. We've restarted the community dinner, but I've lost connection with most of those folk, although there are two that were coming regularly and continue to come to community dinner who've also started to come to Film and Faith. And so there's been some cross-pollination that's happening. We have a meditation group as well that meets every week. That's a Living Spirit Center, which is the building that we're in. And not necessarily run by either congregation, but is lay-led. Possibly primarily because it's a Monday night, and that's both of our ministers' pastor day off. But there's a really good group of folk that participate in that, and not all of them are connected to either of the congregations. And so one of those folk as well, that goes to the meditation, started coming to Film and Faith. So there's been these kind of cross-pollinating, I say, or cross-pollination of people that are coming to these ministries. And when that starts to happen, that's when I start thinking, okay, these people are part of our community. They're part of our church. Even though they're not coming Sunday morning, we should have them on the list. And to the point that we're also thinking, as we enter our stewardship campaign this year, that we need to maybe be sending them a letter, like celebrating their connection with us and inviting them to participate in helping to pay for these things they're benefiting from. And that. So we also started Messy Church, and more recently have joined together with a couple of other congregations in the city that have been doing that, so that we can try and get more people out and not be kind of competing against each other. And the importance of sharing ministry together is I think essential in these times. And so that's just started. We've had one session and they're just kind of rebuilding. We had a few sessions since the pandemic, but it's been hard. The other challenge has been the re-engagement. I think all of us are finding the re-engagement post-pandemic a little challenging in some ways. The number of volunteers stepping up has been less. And there's still, I think, some hesitancy on behalf of some to get out. People got comfortable in their homes and they're just happy staying at home more than coming out to things, we're finding. So that's some of the realities that we're also dealing with presently. I'm just trying to think if there's one other program that I'm forgetting. Those are the three kind of four main things that reach out to people in the neighborhood. This in 2 weeks' time, we just got a growth grant last year, like 2021, I think it was, for the community dinner. And part of that grant was looking at ways that we can grow the program so that it is more connected to the neighborhood and reaching people in the neighborhood. And so some of that money was earmarked for programs that we might have that would promote the community dinner as well. So we're having entrepreneur fair or a small business fair for the neighborhood in our church space next weekend, and hoping to get some people that run small businesses in the neighborhood or home businesses to come, and then we'll also promote the community dinner as part of that and invite people to come and join us. And I think that neighborhood connection is also really essential for our ministry these days as church. I've become part of the parish collective movement that is moving back to our understanding of church as parish. And parish in the traditional British sense was not the church, but the neighborhood the church was in was the parish. And so the importance of connecting with the neighborhood and supporting the neighborhood, being partners with organizations in the neighborhood is essential. And the parish collective and this model basically has a phrase, and I think we hear this from EDGEy as well, that God is up to something. God is up to something in the neighborhood. And it's up to us to find out what that is and join in. Because there's lots of ministry and mission that's happening by neighbors that aren't connected to church, but they're basically doing mission and ministry, and they're doing God's work. And so we need to find ways to support that and join in. That's not as easy in the suburb or a suburban type neighborhood where I am. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that, because there's like one community center. It's very kind of program focused, and there's not a lot of issues that are obvious, like there would be in an inner city church. And so it's just trying to get out and find out what's there. Another thing that is I have coffee shop office hours once a week in a local coffee shop, and I don't necessarily see a lot of neighborhood people there or engage with a lot of people, but I do see a lot of my folk from the church come to the coffee shop, and I would see more people there than I would if I stayed at my office and had office hours. So that's been kind of cool too.
I love that idea that you yourself and your congregation are getting out in the community and making yourselves more visible, and at the same time inviting people in and saying be a part of our community, regardless of what your spiritual beliefs are. Um, Come be a part of our community. Come talk with us. Come to the movies with us. I know that's something that would really interest me. I looked on your Facebook page about your movies, and I saw that you're going to see Oppenheimer. I think it is um, October. Um,
That
and
was one of the options, but yeah,
That was one of the options.
yeah.
Okay.
We ended up watching Women Talking,
Oh,
which was
another
really good.
another great one,
Yeah.
another great movie, and that a lot of really great discussion could come out of.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, and you're becoming a bit. You said you have one community center in your community, but it seems to me at least that you're becoming a bit of a community hub yourself.
Yeah, a little bit of trying to work towards that or be known in the community.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
So you talked a little bit about what prompted you to go this way. You said you were hired especially to talk about what about different expressions of church and possibly different manifestations of church and getting out in the community to do that. What is what prompted you to to move expressly in this direction, and was the congregation on board at first?
Yeah, so I think what probably prompted me or what started was being engaged with the Embracing the Spirit movement and education that the church offered early 2000s, I guess that was. And so just since then, got interested in what was the literature and resources that were doing that exploration about where church is going and what the emerging church is, and that we're in this probably new Reformation period where what we say and do around theology and faith will determine what Christianity looks like for the next 500 years. So it's a significant time that we need to be engaged in. And so it was, became an essential part of my ministry to figure out and to work with those realities. And so, yeah, the church, having hired me with that awareness and intention, they were quite, have been quite open and receptive to what I've been offering and saying and working towards with them.
Excellent. Have there been any big surprises as you've engaged in this work?
Yeah, a few. The one that I'd already mentioned was the one woman kind of bringing a whole group of people to our community dinner. That was quite awesome. And one thing that we had done, one of the lay people one year came up with an idea of doing an Easter egg hunt to reach out to the neighborhood and stuff and do something for the neighborhood. And she was also a master at promotion. So she had gotten posts on multiple Facebook sites, which were very successful because we had prepared for this Easter egg hunt for people to come, and we were right beside an open space that's a city property, like park that has walking space and paths and stuff in it. So we just like laid out all these Easter eggs in, I think, but that year we did have the plastic eggs with some chocolate eggs in them and whatnot out on the field, and we were to start at 1. I think people started showing up at 11 or 12 maybe, but they were like really early, and we were out of eggs in half an hour. And this was like the Sunday or Saturday before Easter or something probably, and there was no other little stores that still had eggs. We were going to the dollar store and buying candy and stuff. So it's never been quite as successful since then, but we have kind of continued to keep it. And we didn't get the volunteers to carry it out last year, but that is one of the other events that was named in our growth grant to do again and promote the community dinner. But that was a huge surprise how successful that was, and how that drew in the neighborhood. And we had in the, I guess we gave out little treat bags or something as well, or bags to everybody. We had information about our More Than Church programs in that to promote our ministries.
That's wonderful. Where do you see this going in the future?
Hopefully to keep trying to figure out how to grow these programs and to get more people from the neighborhood joining us in them. We have a few, but it's still predominantly church people, although some of the church people that we get aren't coming as much Sunday morning. The first few weeks that we did, few months that we did Film and Faith, I had a member on our list who I hadn't seen, but who I knew from other things in the city, say that this is my idea of church. And so, yeah, so they were participating even though they weren't coming Sunday morning. So it's kind of that 2-level or 2-tier opportunity for connecting with those who aren't coming Sunday morning that are on our list, as well as wanting to reach out to those who aren't. And then, the challenges with these programs is that, like on church on Sunday morning, we have the offering plate go around and we talk about stewardship and what it means to support the community. But that's not the same in these More Than Church programs, which is why I've kind of thought about, like, we should send these folk that are coming to more than one program at least a letter as part of the stewardship campaign. Because how do we sustain the church is the huge challenge in our congregations these days. And so when people come to something, they need to know that they don't run for free. And so we do put out a basket for our community dinner, and people often are quite happy to throw in a donation for that. And we started putting out envelopes so that if they want to give more, they get a tax receipt for it as well. And that, but yeah, so hoping to continue to work to figure out ways to connect with the neighborhood and draw people in, and figure out also in that, like, where we can go where people are at to offer things, offer ministry and programs and opportunities to talk about faith and spirituality that aren't as threatening as coming to church Sunday morning or whatever. So we've done things as well, like having at the coffee shop, we have a carol sing every Christmas season in the coffee shop. People kind of join in sometimes or just enjoy it.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a great job, and hopefully you'll get some more chances to uh, to get out and reach more people. Um, what can I say? It's you're you've obviously got a lot on your plate as a community of faith, and but it's a lovely story, and thank you for coming to talk to us today about it. Is uh is there anything else that you'd like to say to us before we let you go today?
Maybe just to name one other program. One of our relationships we have with the congregation is with Indigenous Christian Fellowship, which is an inner city organization in Regina that we volunteer at every Saturday to serve breakfast with them and eat breakfast with the community. And out of that, and trying to evolve and deepen that partnership and build relationship and work towards reconciliation, we developed together a program called EDGEy Cafe, which is Indigenous and non-Indigenous cafe, where we bring together once a month Indigenous and non-Indigenous performer that sing or perform for the community, and often they're sharing stories of their experience, particularly the Indigenous folk, that helps us to understand their journey and gifts and skills and culture, and that's been a very rich and wonderful opportunity to work towards and build with and share with both communities.
Yes, thank you for telling us about that. I love that idea. We're definitely going to put your website up in the description area so that people can go and take a look at what you're doing, um, because it really is impressive. Thank you so much,
Good.
Russell, for being with us today,
You're
and
welcome.
and all the best in your future endeavors, getting out to the community and bringing them in.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. This has been another Edging Conversation. See you next week.